Hey, hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Ask a Brother podcast. I'm your host, Jeff St. James, and I'm super excited about today's episode and interview with a very, very special guest. But before we get into that, let me handle a couple housekeeping things real quick. One, I got a new computer, y'all. So hopefully things will work out this go round with the live. Obviously, this is new territory for me as this channel continues to grow. But with your donations, best believe things are going to start to quickly start to continue to improve and change as far as the tech, as far as the support. And shout out to my mods that's on tonight. Mrs. Plum, as you see, is one of our main moderators. Katie and AJ may be joining us later as well. So for a couple quick announcements, shout out number one to our current subscriber count, which I believe is now 25,935 subscribers. So shout out to you all for joining the channel. All right, so thank y'all. Love the support, love the feedback. Me and the team are constantly looking at the feedback and seeing how we can tweak things. We may have some new intros coming soon, some new outros coming soon. So a whole lot of stuff is really coming. And I know all of y'all are starting to ask about call-in shows and the group meetings and store merchandise. So let me just zip through these real quick as fast as possible. Number one, store merchandise. We are actually waiting as early as potentially Wednesday to get some samples of the store merchandise that we hope to make public to everybody. Of course, channel members will know first, and they'll get first dibs at being able to purchase those products. And we'll do a members only video. As soon as we know it's in the clear and we love the merchandise, they'll be the first ones to know. With that said, we are starting a men's group, and we will be putting in the links either in this live stream, as well as either during or after this interview. We'll be putting up the link for men to join our first virtual men's self-improvement group. So super excited to start these men's groups. They'll be weekly. They will be on Tuesdays, I believe, at 7 or 7:30 p.m., something like that. Don't hold me to it. But they're way cheaper than the regular individual therapy and or consultations. And because it's only a one payment each month, you can see and interact with myself and other facilitators as they run groups as well. So super excited to bring in not only just key guests to lead the men's groups, but eventually, hopefully before the end of this year, starting even the women's groups as well. And we never know, depending on how y'all like Taylor, she may be one of those people who actually could be coming in and joining and being a co-facilitator of the ladies groups as well. So super excited. Yo, shout out to Leon. Already people starting with the love. Thank you for the donation. And y'all, case in point, I was having issues with my IT, with my lives. And because of your donations, we were able to very easily, quickly go and get the equipment. So best believe your donations matter. So if you haven't donated, feel free to sign up. $2, $3, $4, whatever you can afford. I always say, if you're a channel member, you don't have to feel free to donate anything. If you're not a channel member and you're watching this or supporting the cause, this is another way in which you can. For those that don't want to pay directly through YouTube, all my links are in the channel bio as far as Cash App and PayPal. So thank y'all. Genuinely, super excited. And AJ is in the building, the people's champ. Shout out to him. So make sure y'all hit that like button if you haven't, just to kind of get the algorithm kind of recognizing that we're here. Feel free to send this to your girlfriends, to your guy friends, to your significant others, because I'm telling you, when you get done this conversation that we are about to have, I almost think she's like my twin when it comes to mentally, because I feel like so many of the things that I think I've noticed over the last couple of years with her material, we think so similarly. So if you all are a fan of this content, if you're a fan of a lot of the work that I'm producing, and even how I'm thinking as a podcaster, I gotta say that she is another person that if you've never heard of her, you absolutely will want to follow and support her during or after this feed. So shout out to everybody that's coming. Make sure that you send it and let everybody know. We're going to give it about a couple minutes real quick. Actually, not much, not really a couple minutes, because we've already done a couple minutes. So Katie has already put some of the links in the channel description. For the men's group, either AJ or Katie is going to post that link so that you can see it. We're also, like I said, going to post that link either during or right after this live for you all to be able to start the men to be able to join the men's virtual self-improvement group. So shout out to y'all because in a short amount of time we are moving as a community. We're very very close to hitting the 26,000 subscriber mark, and I don't take it for granted. So I appreciate y'all genuinely, and just excited about today's topic. So with that said, let me get underway with my intro, because you know how I like to do my intros a certain type of way. So for starters, y'all, besides her being my twin, in respect to how we try to handle these types of tough conversations. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She's also a certified personal development coach. And my best way to describe her honestly is the mental health viral sensation herself. Please, please, please give a warm welcome to Miss Taylor Chandler.
The energy is amazing in here already. I can feel it.
Yeah. So listen. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. I'm so appreciative and happy for you to finally be able to make it. I don't know about you, but for me, I felt like a lot of people kept like dropping your name on like videos I was on and comments and DMs, and it was like, you gotta get with her. I was like, y'all know it's not that simple. Like people gotta like agree, they gotta read DMs, like they just making it seem like I could just meet with anybody. But I appreciate it, and I'm honored that you're joining this platform tonight.
Thank you. And you know what? Really, you could have, and that's what happened, right? Because it was the same thing on my end, where, like you said, we're really like mental twins in the
Mm,
way that we think and our values, and just there's so many things that I think that we connect on. So I'm really
mhm,
excited about that, and I think people are just naturally making the connection. So if people have been saying your name, and then
mm.
when I got the message, it was just like perfect. It just felt like, of course, we have to meet and do this.
Yeah, listen, I appreciate it. The next person on the panel that's got to join at some point is Raquel. Uh,
Absolutely.
so all y'all that's watching this tonight, if you, or later on, when you come across this video, do the same thing y'all did to us. Make sure y'all do it to Raquel. And before you know it, we may have a 3-person panel on here, and I think the jewels that we're gonna drop tonight. I'm gonna be rewatching this myself, so I'm excited. So why don't you let people know just a little bit about your background, especially in terms of both the mental health and the life coaching, and what made you decide to kind of get into podcasting?
Yeah, so I got my master's in marriage and family therapy in 2018 at Mercer University in Atlanta. That's how I got there. I'm from Virginia. I'm back in Virginia now. I got my master's in marriage and family therapy 2018. Before that, I was in coaching, but in fitness. So,
Mhm,
a personal trainer, a large group trainer. I was doing that through school. Then became a therapist, but the coach part of me is just very natural.
mhm,
And so then I just decided to make it that more professional as well. And
mhm,
we
mhm,
transferred it over into more of like the self development and what I would call relational development space. So
mhm,
officially got licensed in 2018 and opened my practice in immediately when I could. I mean, right when I got the hours,
mhm,
I knew I wanted my private practice, which
mhm,
also happened to be during COVID. So, which is also when I started my podcast, Boundaries and Grace. So, all of that was in really 2019, like late 2019.
okay,
That's when I started Boundaries and Grace and my professional Instagram account, which is the only one I have now. And so that's where it all started. I got
nice,
into
nice.
the podcasting space because I just wanting to help people. That was really it. It was just like I feel like I had
Mhm,
some ideas, and COVID, everyone was buying podcast equipment, and I was also one of those people. So
yeah.
it went from there, and it's been going since then.
Nice, nice. And I'm really grateful that you jumped in before me in regards to having a somewhat of a mental health life coaching lens, just because I was able to see a couple people who were a little bit closer to how I felt I kind of wanted to approach it. I don't
Mhm.
do a lot of shock, trying to do all the things that you would know would guarantee people would watch you. I'm still, trying to be myself and trying to be more pragmatic with this stuff, and it was nice to see like normal thinking people who are able to have a really good balance between how they hold men and women accountable, as well as critiquing like culture as a whole. So
Mhm.
kudos to you for kind of taking the leap. As far as like support with your podcast, did you notice a lot of support or a lack thereof from like family and friends?
I lack of support, I
Mm,
would say, because I think that when you have a when I had and then I think other people can relate who are like this, like when I had a vision for it, and then when you're doing the work in it, people can't relate to it.
yeah.
And so it's difficult for people to support, not because necessarily they don't want to, or it's like
Hmm.
some kind of like hater thing. Like it's not always that. I think sometimes people just don't know how to
Hmm.
relate, and then it's hard, I think, for some people to support unless they're like really that natural cheerleader type who can just support anything. I think a lot of times
Hmm.
people have to kind of understand what it is that they're supporting. I found a lot of people didn't. So I found out, but I did find a lot of support in strangers.
Yep.
And then, when I start putting that stuff out on the internet, it's like, oh, there are people who really understand it and connect. And I found a lot of support on the internet, actually.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and the reason why I asked that is because I'm thinking of original piece, what I want to do in terms of, and I will call it something like the, let's say the 4 or 5 steps of success. And one of the steps that I'm personally realizing, and I've thought about it for quite some time, was that your target audience is not your family and friends.
Mhm.
No. And I think so many people don't even start. Like so many people don't get going and actually just put themselves out there and just begin because they're waiting for their family and friends to like give them support and praise and feedback and validation. I'm like,
No.
95% of the time, like your audience is never going to be like your immediate circle unless you've already had similar shared interests, which is usually not the case. So that was like a big thing. That was like I think that's why I really try to do my big relaunch to getting back into podcasting in 2025. I did not tell almost any family, almost any friends, and I just did it. I just went with it. And I'm grateful that I did because I think in previous years, I would have held myself up waiting for the people who I'm cool and closest to be like super interested in a lot of niche things that like I'm interested in. It's dope to see that you and people like me, and hopefully this is encouragement to all of you all that are watching. Just start. Just go all in. Like just go because you never know what it can turn into. So obviously let's get past the pleasantries because everybody's like, well, come on, y'all, get some deep stuff. So my initial question is, uh, what are your thoughts about like the dating relationship be like influencers like in the podcasting space? Like, do you find them to be more helpful, harmful, like toxic? What even like what trends are you noticing with like influencers in general? What do you
I'm
think?
thinking in general it's unhelpful. In general, no, it's entertaining, and you have and we have seen plenty of the content. I think it's entertaining, but it's not helpful
Hmm.
in general. And I think the biggest trend to the point where it's like I don't even know. It's such a trend. It's just the norm at that point at this point where
Hmm.
it's just like rage bait, and we know what's going to get people upset, and that's what gets clicks, and that's
Hmm.
just the reality of it. And it's the reality
Hmm.
on YouTube, it's the reality on the news. Like that's just attention. Like that's
Yep.
just how that works. And so just a lot. I think it's just a norm for things to be rage bait. And the thing I find most concerning about that in this particular lane is that this is real life. Like
Yeah.
we're talking about like families, marriage.
Yeah.
That alone, I mean, they're talking about some of the most important things
Hmm.
that just exist. And so I find that really disturbing that we're playing with it, like as if it's whatever when it's actually so consequential. So we have all of these voices that don't have the same. I mean, I think it's just safe to say just don't have the same motivations as we do. Like it just flat out just don't.
Yeah.
The what's coming out from that or that group, and it's a big one. Like I think it's a big group of people who
Hmm.
are on something that everybody's interested in, but are speaking on it in a way that really degrades the conversation,
Yeah.
and that I find really disturbing.
Yeah, I've spoken on this briefly with a couple different content creators about my views on it. I'm not a big like, are you married or not type person, where it's like, if you're not married, if you're not in a relationship, you can't speak on this. I feel like people in different seasons of their life could be, better or more healed than other people who are married. So I'm always looking to see like if they have more of a heal perspective of both sexes versus just simply like, oh, if you're not married, you can't speak to nothing. Or because I'm like, there's plenty of people who are married whose marriages I don't want and would not want to want to be a part of, right? And there's also people who are older, who are widows, or who are even single, who still see the value in both sexes. So I'm very, very mindful of that. And I guess the reason why I asked that question is because I'm realizing more and more these people, whether they realize it or not, while they're pandering or like getting their money or whatever it is that they're doing, or clout that they're getting, they're not factoring in the people's folks' marriages and relationships are being impacted by what's coming out of their mouths.
Truly. I mean, I hear it in real practice, right? Like people say like, "Oh, stuff is only on the internet." Come out in the real world, it's like, no, these are real clients that are
Mhm,
coming in with real impact
mhm,
of what they're hearing, or what their partner is hearing, and then having to deal with. So it's not, the relationships have just been opened up to
mhm.
some external voices that don't even know you,
Yeah.
and taking this arbitrary is a nice way of putting it. Like it's like arbitrary information or advice. Again,
Mhm,
a nice way of putting it, and personalizing it. And it really, it's having a real impact. It's definitely not just online.
mhm. Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm learning and realizing as I think about it. It's like it's what you're concerned about, I know I'm concerned about, but I guess the way I'm going to frame it is they I'm not sure if they're like, it doesn't really like the reason why we're talking about a gender war to me is hugely because of social media.
I agree.
Hugely because of and I know what both sides are doing. They're pandering to each sex and they're telling the each sex that the other sex is what's wrong.
Mhm.
Right. So there's definitely a market for people to pander to men. I'm seeing some successful women who are who are making some money telling them what they want to hear and not often what they need to hear. And of course, I feel like we've been doing this for like 60 years with marketing to women and being able to sell them anything and everything. So I appreciate knowing that there's someone else like you that's out there who's very critical and choosing not to endorse and like share a lot of this foolishness and stuff that we're seeing.
Yeah, and I appreciate the same thing about your platform. It's something that you mentioned earlier when we first came in, just like that intentionality about this, basically like the seriousness of what it is that you're doing and why you're here. And
Mhm,
really staying true to that. And I mean, I know how I felt. I've wondered, like, I mean, do people care? Right? Because we hear the most from the unserious group, and they're very loud,
yeah.
always the loudest one. So I think it can feel discouraging, when the majority or the volume is turned up, on that side.
Mhm,
That's why I
mhm,
think just the energy of your work and like the people who are like tuned in to both of our platforms are like serious people,
yeah.
and we need a space. And so that's, I'm so glad that you're doing this. It feels like the unserious people have just taken over the internet, taken over
Yeah.
media. Like we said, like that's what's why we're having these big conversations, because in the media we're
Mhm,
seeing it. And I just have felt like, we serious people need, like, who actually think that this matters, like in a real way, like
mhm,
need to have a space where we can also connect. And by the way,
mhm.
I'm really happy about the men's group that is going to start and launch
Hey.
after, after this live stream is complete. I'm really,
Mhm,
really excited about that for you and for everybody that's going to be joining it, because we need community, and we need to
mhm.
be supported, and we need to feel sane, because I think we can feel almost like, am I crazy? Am I the one
Yeah.
that's off? Then like it feels like there's a right way, but I'm hearing a lot of people, confuse what's right and wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
so I could go on and on about that, but yeah, I just really appreciate that about your work as well.
Listen, thank you. I'm realizing that I'm not the first one to say a lot of these things, but I think there is a unique talent and a space for people to speak the thoughts that a lot of people have that they feel they're not allowed to say,
Mhm.
or they don't have the people in their life that they feel they can have these conversations with. Like social media, like you said, is crazy, and it really does. The algorithm really does feed into like the worst versions of people, of culture, of behavior. And it's like that's the thing that's just going to get the most eyeballs. So, the slow grind of like trying to just be normal. And I think there's a space for it still. I think there's a space in the lane for us to just be normal and just, acknowledge like it's okay to acknowledge that men and women are messing up and there's things that we got to get better at, and
Mhm.
be humble in ourselves in ways in which, I feel that we may have fallen through the cracks with this stuff. So,
Mhm.
relatedly, gender roles. Um,
Mhm.
let's discuss like from your perspective, like gender roles, traditional versus modern views of it between men and women. And like,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on like what's the issues with with this ongoing debate between like gender roles, confusion, like expectations, requirements? Like, what do you make of all this stuff?
Yeah, gender roles. So there are a couple of things around gender roles that come to my mind. It's like one being there when we're talking about the dichotomy of traditional versus modern, right? It's
Hmm.
just that it's framed as one or the other. I think for the purpose of conversation and simplicity, that kind of breakdown is helpful because it gives us it gives us simplicity. Where it breaks down though, the gender role thing or traditional versus modern, like where I think one way it breaks down is when it meets real life, and real life has this gray area, and by that I mean requires a level of flexibility for most people. Like most people are not living a traditional life right now. Like
Hmm.
most people aren't living and or even didn't come from, and then even before that didn't come from like I'm talking
Hmm.
about parents, grandparents, didn't come from like someone like one person doing like being the true we say sole provider, that's what it means. Sole provider, the one provider for the entire family, and where the woman caring for the home and taking care of kids. Most people aren't living that life. And this age,
Yeah.
modern age, I don't think for most people, like I'm comfortable saying 75%, like at like and being, I think I could actually go higher than that, right? So I like,
Higher.
I like to be safe in my when I throw out some numbers like that. So I'm going to say at least
Mhm.
75%.
Yeah. Yeah.
That tradition, like it, that life requires this modern life requires a level of flexibility where just
Mhm.
having that dichotomous way of being really doesn't fit for most people. To make that practical, what that means is like most people need two incomes to
Yep.
survive. The grocery store is crazy right now. I'm at the grocery store like I mean, what I paid, 6 months ago is not what I'm paying right now. So
Mhm.
the point being like most people need two incomes to live like comfortably. So that
Mhm.
kind of like traditional dichotomous idea of gender roles doesn't really fit for most people in this modern age because we require a level of flexibility. That doesn't mean I don't think gender roles are important. I think gender roles are like real and helpful. I think
Mhm.
I think that people need we need defined role. You don't just show up at work and everybody just says, "What do you want to do?" Like
Mhm.
we don't do that. That would be chaos, and that is chaos in relationships when people don't know what to do. And gender roles helps to give us like an outline, but I think we
Mhm.
should like that, like it's an outline and not like be playbook,
Yeah.
which requires a different level of like flexibility. So I think there's that. I think there's things around a big things around a lack of empathy, appreciation, and understanding of the other. And so I
Mhm.
think in general, people feel uh, whether I'm talking about the man or the woman people are feeling like they are being like underserved and undervalued while simultaneously feeling like, and I'm saying feeling on purpose because it's perception.
Mhm.
Okay. It's feeling like they're overly generous and very high, like I'm very valuable themselves. So in other words, like I'll say that again.
Mhm.
I feel I feel like I'm being very generous to you and feeling like I'm very valuable to you, while at the same time feeling like you're underserving me and like essentially like I'm getting a bad deal. And it seems like
Mhm.
I feel that way. I think there's a lack of understanding and empathy about what the other's doing that creates a perception gap. And
Mhm.
what's the who's doing what and how much does it matter?
Yeah.
I think that that's a big thing around gender roles. I think there's like a lack of empathy, understanding, appreciation for what others doing. And then
Mhm.
I think there's of course, a lack of modeling in the home. And
Mhm.
so then there's a lot of then we're picking up signals and people are trying to piece things together because humans need models. That's just the way that like people work. Like we
Yeah.
need models and we're going to look for, if you don't have one, you'll look for one. And it's an unconscious process. Like most of the time, especially when you're young, you're not going out looking for a role model, but you find one anyway. And so I think that with a lack of modeling, we're filling in the gaps of like, what do men do and what do women do with
Mhm.
a lot of arbitrary information. And again, a nice word for it. So there's a
Mhm.
lot to think about gender roles, but some of those are some of the things that come to mind.
Yeah, I honestly I agree with so much of what you said and shared about the like and that key part you mentioned about that overestimation of what it is that they're bringing, what they feel they themselves are bringing versus what it is they feel that they're getting from the opposite sex is it's like a over like we're overestimating how much value we think we're bringing to the quote unquote table and thinking that the other sex isn't quite living up to the bill, and in reality it's like me and my wife and I literally just had this conversation today, actually, when I got in about this whole discussions about submission and gender role and all this other stuff. And I said, well, first of all, like 95% of people, especially the people that's the loudest on the internet and everything, they're not living this actual reality.
Oh,
Let's
mm,
let's 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 start with the basics. Single people who are not even in successful relationships are some of the loudest ones talking about gender roles. I don't know. I find it somewhat ironic. And then two, like you mentioned, let's be honest, like the cost of living has exploded. Men are having to make 3 to 4 times what their fathers were making to try to do comparable things. And even when it comes to quote unquote what we're basing these words like submission and traditional this and whatever it is the basis that you're basing it on, like you said, most people are not, that's not their actual lived
mhm,
experience, both in the past, what they grew up in, what they have now. It's like, I'll give even examples where it's like most people, what they're really meaning by that is usually attributing it to men when it comes to finances and attributing it to women with domestic related activities.
yeah.
And even then, I'll always poke holes with it when I think about like the man who makes all this money, but doesn't really come off as much of a protector. And I'm like,
Mhm,
well, is he traditional then? If he doesn't really see himself as a protector, or somebody else can take care of her, or somebody else can keep her safe or whatever, then I'm like, he pays for everything, but that's just a simp to me. That doesn't, he doesn't. If he pays for everything, but he's not there in the lives of his kids, is he there for being a real man? Like I believe in the book of Proverbs, Proverbs 31 woman.
mhm,
She had a business. She
yeah.
was out working out meeting people, working, selling merchandise, coming home and taking care of her family. And it was like there's a mode of thought of like a woman who's more traditional wouldn't be doing that. So it's like, even the word submission, I literally just mentioned this and I'm like, I know everybody's talking about what marriage means and what submission means, but like if you use that word, I know most people who's pushing it the hardest or most people who's saying they're for or against it or what it looks like. I know you're not basing that off of scripture
No.
because the version of the Bible I've read, and I've read quite a few of them, um, the commands and and what was dictated and what was said and how first of all, you know, depending on how you interpret certain passages, I don't know if me and you could even be having this conversation,
It's true.
right? So the reality is like I'm one of those people that's like, does it work for you? Whatever version of what your expectations are, does it work for you as a unit? But more
Mhm.
importantly, especially from a clinical background, when you're working with newer couples, couples who are going through premarital, couples who are going through marital issues, a lot of times what people are saying they think they want, they actually don't realize what comes with it. And a lot of times I've had to challenge them in saying, no, 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 no. You keep screaming and saying you want a traditional man, but what you really want is an egalitarian situation where everything is functionally pretty close to equal, unless it's something you don't like or don't want to deal with. Then you want him to lead. Otherwise, he got to run all his decisions by you. And I'm like, well, if everything has to get signed off by you, who's actually leading? Right. So that's where I'm at, where it's like most people, when they mean these roles for each gender, they usually mean what's a benefit to them.
I agree. It's what's convenient. It's what's convenient, what kind of like take something off of their plate, make their life easier.
Mhm,
Also, not the point of marriage. Or
mhm,
so I think there's like this almost like there's a romantic idea. We were like a lot of times we romanticize the past. Uh,
mhm.
and like, you know, what did it used to be for our grandparents and stuff? Well, I mean, if we really had the conversation,
Listen, we having it now. Like, go ahead, go ahead.
it's just not that simple, right? Like even it's so easy to break down the argument around the like when someone just throws the thing out and without having understanding of, like you said, of what it is that they're actually suggesting. When you really just, I mean, it takes about one or two questions, you know, you go just
Mhm,
one and a half layers deep and it just breaks down. So it's not that people can't or shouldn't have traditional homes. It's just that I think
mhm.
what I think part of what I'm hearing you saying um, is that that's probably not exactly the fit for you anyway.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and you know, on the flip side of a woman wanting a traditional man, a man wanting a completely submitted wife. First
Mhm,
of all, you have to understand what someone's definition of submission is, and then we have to understand, okay, well, is it biblical? And then, okay, did we read the whole Ephesians 5 or just
mhm.
wives submit to your husband? Because even before that, we heard husbands
Submit to your wives. Submit to one another.
submit to one another, and
Yeah.
the husband is submitted to God, submitted to Jesus, and is in the image of Him.
Mhm,
So there's a lot of things that start breaking down once we really start peeling back. Okay, what do you mean by that, and who are you that is essentially like maybe not insisting on it, but
mhm,
suggesting that it's for you and for everybody else. I mean, like who are you that is even the one wanting the thing, because it starts there, wanting a submitted wife, again, depending on what it is that you actually mean, what
mhm,
that comes with. Let's just give it to someone, like let's say they have the same kind of understanding of submission as we do.
mhm,
Let's say that someone got it right, like in the way that maybe that we would say we understand it.
mhm,
What that comes with, that's not just a that's not a it's not a just a, it's not a privilege to have a submitted wife. It's a responsibility to have a submitted wife, and you don't just
mhm.
have a responsibility to her. You have a responsibility to God.
Yeah.
And are we taking care of that part? Women who want the man who is leading will, like, all what that comes with
Mm.
is a responsibility, not a privilege.
Mhm,
It's a responsibility to be submitted. It's a responsibility to have a man who leads your home, to leads your marriage, leads your relationship. It's a
mhm.
responsibility to that. It's not like a laissez-faire thing. No, there's things you have to do in order to maintain that kind of structure. So I think when a lot of times when someone's talking about the traditional versus modern, or the traditional and then the leading man and the submitted wife,
Mhm.
we're definitely not talking about the responsibility of those positions.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, because I believe a huge part of the feminist movement was a reaction to gender roles. And one of their key gripes was they believed that defining roles for women was seen as trying to control women,
Mhm.
control their behavior, control how they display themselves, control how they act and move in regards to with men. Do you think that's true? That in order for your person to believe that there are such a thing as gender roles, that that could potentially be a aspect of the patriarchy that attempts to try to control women?
Yeah, I do think that that's some people's motivation. And I
Mm,
think that not only do men have to reflect on where it's coming from, but women have to be able to discern where it's coming from. A woman has to understand a man's motivation to be in that position because some
mhm,
people really do want power and control. That's real. And
yeah,
I think it's helpful. And so I appreciate like a platform like yours where we can just acknowledge that, like not act like that never happens.
mhm,
Just like there are women who want a leading man, not because she wants to be submitted, but because she wants to be lazy. So what's the motivation? What's the heart? Another way of thinking about it, what's the heart behind like someone's request? What's the
mhm,
heart behind what's the heart behind this structure that someone is insisting is in their relationship? So it's not all good. Like
mhm,
it's not like people don't want these positions because they want to live in the fear of the Lord. Like that's some people, right?
mhm,
But I think it's not the majority. I think it's the minority of people who even have an understanding.
mm,
I'm not even saying that everybody is like intentionally or like most people are intentionally trying to like game the system. I think that
mhm,
there's a lot of ignorance,
yeah,
a lot of general ignorance and just people wanting what they want and not really understanding the depth and the width and of what it is that you're really asking for and what it all comes with. I think there's just a lot of missing information.
mhm. I listen, I agree that I do think it's definitely a constraint on how it is that women are being expected to show up when you say there is a defined gender role for women. My problem has always been one of my critiques with feminism and especially third and fourth wave feminists is wouldn't that apply to men as well? Like, wouldn't that also mean that men have to be performative? Men have to show up in a certain way. Men have to do things that perhaps they don't always want to do. They have to be sacrificial in the societal expectation of what it means to be a man, a leader, the head of a household. That also comes with its own set of things. And for whatever reason, it's like they can recognize how that's seen as an aspect of controlling women and their behaviors and what they could do with their finances and what they could do with their bodies. There's also these rigid expectations of what it would mean to be a traditional man in
Yeah,
regards to this stuff as well. And I honestly believe that people would have less issues with third and fourth wave feminists if they ever would acknowledge anything about stuff like these conversations about what can be a detriment or a cost on the other side, not just for women, but for men as well. But I agree with you both. In order for couples to move anywhere closer to being quote unquote traditional or being in those gender roles, both of those things would require a level of sacrifice that I don't think most people are prepared for, willing to do, or were even raised to experience to begin with.
that is a word. That is a word. And I totally agree. You used a word constrained that I think is really important
Hmm.
because these roles, again, I think helpful for an outline, I think helpful like markers, but not the whole playbook. These roles create a narrow way of being for both
Hmm.
sides.
Hmm.
And the pressure, I work with a lot of men in my practice,
Hmm.
actually.
Really?
And I do more than most like female therapists. I think right now I have more men and on when I'm working with one-on-one than
Wow.
women actually.
Same.
And
Same.
and part of it is because they're like they can see that I can see both sides of the situation, and that's just like so uncommon, which is also very concerning.
Yeah.
Um, even among therapists, right? I mean, how many stories have I heard? But I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. Let me stay focused. Men who are the pressure. like the pressure and the stress. And I am not a man. And so, and I know, and I've had to, I can acknowledge that I don't know what it's like to have that level of pressure. It's
Mhm.
not on me to pay for this.
Yeah.
If it was, I would be stressed in a different way. I tell you, I'm grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I don't know what it's like to have to like be looking at the woman you love and to have it to really, I mean, it's so much on you. Like it's so
Mhm.
in a material way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the impact of that is really extraordinary.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's so important that we this is that point about the empathy piece that was just lacking. It's this the not understanding, the not even almost like some people just like don't even care or don't even believe it. Like, and that's really concerning, right? Don't even
Mhm.
believe a woman or a man or like whoever's the one that kind of feels unheard, unseen is even really feeling that, which is a big problem. I mean, people really this is a these roles that people are expecting to play, the performance, the stress,
Mhm.
whether it's a man or a woman, it's really constrained and constricted people and not allowed for what is really important, which is like the collaboration in the relationship, the flexibility, the being able to meet the moment with what it needs and not with like an arbitrary idea of how I'm supposed to be. But how do
Yeah.
I need to be? Like, what does this moment need to be? And there's so many times where it is reflective, like what the moment needs is reflective of what would be in a traditional gender role. Like if you're,
Mhm.
if it's just a black and white, let's read on paper, what does a man do? What does a woman do? Sometimes it really does line up that
Yep.
way. And
Yep.
sometimes it doesn't. And the issue is when it doesn't and you can't adjust and meet that moment with what it needs because you have a narrow idea of how to be or how they should be.
Yeah.
I mean, we that's where again, like it breaks down.
Big Mo 89 said, if the expectation in a traditional relationship is for the man to lay down his life in service of his family to protect or even provide, why shouldn't a man expect some level of control? What do you think about that?
I think that if the person who is, let's say, honestly, well, just my my tongue is calling the shots, but I'm going to say, let's just say paying. Let's say paying. Let's say providing,
Mhm.
which is like there's a provision is so much more than a material thing, but for the simplicity of the conversation, we could say like let's say he's providing and
Mhm.
protecting, which is
Mhm.
protecting isn't just like when someone breaks in the house and now who gonna get out of bed like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
conversations are so simplified. It's like there's so many other ways for someone to provide, so many other ways for someone to protect, and yet protection in a physical way is important and valid, and financial provision is important and valid. So
Mhm.
nuances of the conversation. I do think that like let me use me for an example.
Mhm.
If I am not going to pay for this house, okay, and
Mhm.
I'm not paying for the dates, okay, I'm not
Mhm.
paying for a big date. I'm gonna get in there when I where I fit in there, but I'm not gonna do it. I do think that and so the person who's doing the most in
Mhm.
those needs to be able to have a say in what's going on. How you can't it's not about control. And I think we got sometimes men use language that women bristle at because
Mhm.
bristle at the word control, right? Maybe there's a maybe there's a more I'm going to say accurate
Okay.
way of describing what's really going on. Is it about control, right? And I don't know, we can talk about it. Is it really
Mhm.
about control or is it about what's a better word for it?
I I would say because I used this recently when I was doing this discussion of was it no you don't deserve a good man, no you don't deserve a good woman. This whole concept of you cannot protect that who you cannot correct.
Okay.
And I think that's what most men typically mean when it comes to quote unquote control. Uh,
Yeah.
they're basically meaning like you don't listen, you don't heed warnings, concerns, feedback, instructions. You kind of only do those things based on if you agree with them or want to do them.
Mhm.
And it's like, I can't maintain any sense of control in this house. People are doing what they want. Nobody's listening. I'm giving warnings about how they're displaying themselves or how they're dressing or what time they're going out, and they could just do whatever they want. Like this man literally has no control over his house.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's what it means. It's definitely a word that doesn't work well when you're talking about human beings, and adults at that. But I understand the concept of like, how can you protect somebody that you can never correct?
Yeah, I think correct is a good one. I also think
Mhm.
that that's the word that a lot of women bristle at. The word that was coming to my mind as you were describing that, as you're describing it, you're describing stewardship. That's
Yeah.
what stewardship is. When
Mhm.
you have something, it's how you care for something. It's how do you facilitate the relationship? How do you manage the house? How do you manage the relationship? And so I think those are more descriptive words for what
Mhm.
is actually happening. And
Mhm.
I do think it is important if you want the man to lead the house, and most women are going to say yes to that. What
They'll
it
say it.
comes with, I know. Let me finish the sentence. What that comes with
Mhm.
is there's got to be an absolution of maybe we should be talking about control on maybe on the woman's side. We have to absolve some control,
Mhm.
some because he has to be able to he has to be able to steward the relationship in a way that he sees fit, because and here's the part I think maybe we're missing that
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure you agree with this,
Mhm.
because he's going to be responsible for the outcomes. Like it's going to be looking at you. Okay, we're going to be looking at you. And I think that's the part that I was kind of forgetting. I'm like, there's a piece of this conversation that I'm forgetting to bring in, and that's it. It's
Mhm.
if if this doesn't go well, like if this if what and whatever the it is, right, like if this trip doesn't go well, if this weekend, if this night, if this day, if this conversation, if the kids, like all these things, and we're saying the man is the head of the house,
Mhm.
he's the buck stops there,
Yep.
right? So if I am not willing, Taylor's not in this relationship. Taylor's not willing to. I'm not trying to have the buck stop with me, because that's a heavy level of responsibility. That I think that there are some gendered aspects in terms of like who's really fit for that,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean who's the smart one. It doesn't mean
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that doesn't mean, but who's fit for that. I mean,
Mhm.
there are things about our hormones that
Mhm.
make men it's a better idea for him
Mhm.
to do certain kinds of work, because of the way that our hormones are different, the way our cycles are different, the way that we
Temperature regulation. Yeah.
move through the day, the way, I mean, so
Mhm.
there are some things that make like rational sense for the man to have more control over, because control and responsibility are related. And I think maybe if we bring these more nuanced parts of the conversation up,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
makes, it makes this power issue not seem like a power issue. It makes because I think we approach it like kind of like who has the power,
Mhm.
and women want the power, but
Yeah.
the power comes with responsibility. And so if he's going to be responsible for it, he has
Mhm.
to be able to manage it and have a say, and even the final say, if
Yeah.
if the buck stops there.
Real quick, Dead Set Anime says it's unfair to ask men to curb their language because there is nothing wrong with the word control. I've kind of touched on this with previous guys who kind of struggle with this part of, I guess, my messaging. My belief system is that the Manosphere and Red Pill does a really, really great job of talking about all the differences that are happening or that occur between men and women. And then for whatever reason, when it comes to how to speak to each other, men seem to want to talk to women as if they're men. Now, if y'all, or if you're talking about the biological, evolutionary, and psychological and physiological differences between men and women, why wouldn't you think that that applies to how we choose to relate with each other? Wouldn't we tell women that he's not your girlfriend? So you don't have to talk to him the same way, that he doesn't have to be up to date with all the reality TV shows and all the gossip stuff that you and your girlfriends talk about. He's not, you could let him know those things, but at the end of the day, he's not your girlfriend. And wouldn't we say the same thing applies with men when it comes to conversations like this? maybe as men, we should stop using some words that we know will derail the conversation and get better at become better orators, better communicators. And the same way that I would interact with a child differently, I would interact with a woman differently. In fact, I would interact with different types of men differently based off of, how I see them, what I think they can retain. So we're constantly code switching. We're constantly trying to adjust to the audience that we're in person that we're interacting with. I want men to kind of get out of their heads when it comes to thinking that never adjusting is going to lead towards the outcomes that you want. And this is my other stance with this, because I see some other people who are kind of struggling with this, so to speak. Uh, Not all, but many of the men who struggle with the idea of having to, the same way we would ask women to adjust to men and masculinity and leadership, you have to adjust to femininity and the feminine and women. And I'm realizing that a lot of the guys who are the staunchest, most stubborn guys in this area, um, they're usually the guys who aren't getting a lot of the outcomes that they're happy with right now. So just kind of keep that in mind, fellas, as we kind of delve into this. Do you think women in modern times would prefer or would choose, if they had to choose, do you think that they would choose to be a mom or being a mother over being a wife in 2025?
I think that this is what I think. I think that the first answer would be to be a wife. And I think
Mm,
that it's typically revised after you actually got to see what happens when you got to actually become a wife.
okay.
And so the reason why I say that is because I think that there is a perceived, and even in plenty of cases, a reality of this reality that like there's this unconditional love with the kid, and that it creates this sense of security for women, like with their children, because it's like there's this unbreakable link, truly,
Mhm,
right? Where it feels like but with a man, that's actually something that um both that he has to agree to participate in, like
mhm.
he continue to choose to be in this relationship. And by choosing to be in this relationship, I'm not saying whether you choose to say married or divorced. I'm saying being like emotionally present, mentally present in the relationship. You got to choose to actually do that,
Yeah.
which takes, that's a responsibility. That's responsibility in how you nurture and facilitate the relationship as a woman. That
Mhm.
takes work.
Yeah.
That's work. That's work. Okay,
So
that's
you're wait, so you're saying basically like they initially want to sign up for the role of wife until they become one, and
yeah.
then they would more than likely prefer to be a mother instead.
That's basically what I'm saying. That's
Oh.
basically what I'm saying. I think a lot of women wish that like being I think there's a romantic idea, of course,
Mhm.
about being a wife, even just being in a relationship in general. Because for a lot of people, when they get married, it's not a whole lot different than when they were
Mhm.
just in a relationship with that person. Um, so I think that there is a disillusionment to
Mhm.
wifehood that
Mhm.
that then like kind of makes women believe that, well, being at least I can be a mom and my kid's gonna love me, but my husband this requires something of me more than I
Mhm.
thought. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
more than someone told, more than I was warned about, more than I was prepared for, or more than I believed it actually took. Even if someone
Mhm.
did tell me, and I didn't think it was going to take all that. And I think being a mom for plenty of reasons, it just seems like it's not going to take all that because the child is just naturally like inclined to you. A man's
Yeah.
got to choose,
Mhm.
really got to choose to be with you, and it's just not the same
Yeah.
thing. So with the kids, so I think yeah, I think there's disillusionment, and then
Mhm.
this idea that being a mom is like is easier, it's more accessible.
Yeah, I agree with you. And now, and especially with the way you broke it down, I think that most women who are still interested in relationships and with men are way more interested, less with being quote unquote a wife and much more with being a bride.
Yeah.
And then once they become one and become a wife, a huge percentage of them, I mean, we know the stats in terms of the breakups, the divorce, and who's initiating and everything.
Mhm.
Um, and knowing that they're opting and choosing that at such a high startling thing, in my head, it kind of makes sense. Like, I don't think that they're all going out of their way to start off with like, I'm going to start off with being a single mother. Like, sometimes it happens like that, but I think a lot of times with becoming a single parent, like you said, that they see that as substantially easier. And part of it, and I agree with you, it's like less pushback. You can almost functionally you have a statistical great chance of guaranteeing functionally 14 years of someone functionally having to listen and do what you say. Whereas when you're doing with a marriage and a husband, you can get told about yourself. You could be held accountable. For many parents, and many moms, a lot of adults and people that I'm broken and traumatized people today will tell me that when they were children, their mother or parents never apologized.
Mhm.
So it's like you don't have to apologize. You're not really held accountable for a decade and a half. They have to functionally do whatever you say, and for a lengthy period of time, what you say goes when it comes to being a mother versus having to be with another party who may at times have totally different views, expectations in the direction of how the relationship and marriage should go and function. So it sounds bad to say, but like functionally being a mother for 10 to 14 years, people can say how bad it is and how hard it is being a single mother, but it seems like women keep choosing it more often than not. And even today, you're much more likely as a man to get a woman to get pregnant than it is to get her to marry you, it seems. So, it's unfortunate, but I'm glad you answered that question because that's something I've been kind of wrestling and thinking with for a bit. And it's like, I agree with you. I don't think that they all are starting off with like, yes, I'm just want to be a mother and that's it. I think it kind of, like you said, it kind of ends up in that direction once they kind of get in through the front door.
Yeah. And that's really, I mean, sad is just an understatement, right? Because it's not just the relationship or the marriage that breaks apart, but now we're talking about a whole family.
Hmm.
So the consequences are now exponentially greater.
Yeah.
There's just like I've been thinking a lot about just the lack of preparedness. It's
Hmm.
just like um the this not knowing or not accepting the reality of really what this takes. Like it's going to be different for you, but like this is what it takes, but it's not going to be that for you or something. I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but there's just like a lack of preparedness or just being in the reality of what this is. And again, this goes back to like this issue of not knowing like what marriage is, like what you're really signing up for, like really truly understanding. It's
Hmm.
just you said people want to be bride women want to be brides. I agree. It's like that's not it.
Yeah.
It's like so far. It is so that's so far from it.
Hmm.
It's almost I guess maybe ironic is the word because it's this big symbol for the thing, but it's so not that thing. Like that's
Yeah.
the symbol, it's a symbol of it's a ritual and it
Hmm.
can be very meaningful if you have the depth of understanding
Hmm.
of what it is that you're actually getting into. But I think just like a lack of understanding, lack of preparedness, is
Hmm.
setting people up to be like horribly disillusioned and upset
Yeah.
about what it really takes, what the relationship really requires of you.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's like, what you're critiquing and what I'm critiquing is women that are approaching relationships with men and marriages with men with a mindset where they don't have to accommodate him, don't have to accommodate his needs, and they're just going to get everything that they think they want.
Mhm,
And then my issue is like when you're entering into a relationship with the opposite sex and you functionally decided as a woman, um, I'm gonna I'm gonna dictate everything that I want and everything that he is to do, how he's to behave, how he's to act, it all has to be based off of how I feel and what I want.
mhm,
And I'm seeing it in the group chats right now. I mean, in the comments right now, we have men that have a very similar mindset on the opposite end. They
mhm.
want to do life with women but don't want to adjust anything to being in a relationship with another person, let alone a woman. I'm like, y'all do realize like y'all are sounding and looking like the equivalent of these women that are getting married and then their marriage falls apart. because she never thought about the idea of what it means to be a wife, what it means to do life with a man, and
Mhm.
what accommodation she needs to do to be able to integrate and do life well with a man. So
Mhm.
if y'all dudes are in here crashing out on the comments and everything, I'm like, I don't think y'all realize how y'all looking. Y'all looking like these women that claim to want to be wives. In reality, once they get what they claim to want, they actually don't.
You're so
Kind
right.
of,
Like this, I mean, the duality exists, right? Like when we're seeing it on one side, we're seeing it on the other, and it's the lack of self-awareness. And it's something I just really appreciate even what you're doing in real time right now, which is
Mhm.
holding the mirror up, because we don't get that a lot. Whether it's a man or woman hosting, right? We don't get that a lot where it's like,
Yep.
let's really look and see like let's really go one layer deeper, because it's gonna break down. It don't take much. Like when you just kick it, just if we just go 1-2 layers deeper, the thing breaks down. And I think it's so important to see how we're seeing what we're seeing on one side, we're seeing on the other. And if
Mhm.
and one of the something I caution people of is thinking that it couldn't be me. I'm not the one that's like them. You should check,
Yeah.
because you should check, because
All of us.
all of us should check,
Yeah.
because we have all, well, let's talk about, and we're just talking about America, right? We're here
Mhm.
in the United States. And so we have a general, like we have a shared experience in general, and then a shared general experience of Black people. It doesn't mean we're a monolith, but we all understand what I'm saying. So it's like,
Mhm.
um, if we can't see how the dysfunction that we're seeing in another, we're seeing in others, and the way that they got it is a way that we could have got it. And it
Yeah.
might not sound the same, but
Yeah.
what you're getting at is no, the language isn't the exact same, because you're
Mhm.
coming from different vantage points, but the ignorance is equal. The
Yeah.
ignorance, the lack of awareness, the deflections, like that,
Mhm.
seeing it on,
What about isms? What
yeah.
I'm realizing, what's crazy is all the viral clips is usually of women, right? The high, lofty, unrealistic expectations, the delusion, all that stuff is what goes viral. I feel like on the opposite end, outside of the guy that people could say is quote unquote, the incel, he's very unattractive. He's a doormat. Nobody respects him. No, like he's always ignored. I think most men that don't fit that category, they don't understand that there are other types of men that are undesirable to women or won't do life successfully with women long term,
Mhm.
and they don't know what those traits are. They just assume that everything that's wrong in the relationships is just on women and just on the development of feminism. I'm like you, where it's like, no, there's an ugly side that's within all of us that can kind of come out with this stuff. And it's like, when I went through my last relationship and came out of my divorce, I didn't hate women, but I hated marriage.
Mhm.
I didn't want anything long term in terms of significant commitment. It took me a minute to kind of realize, like, I can't project my bad mate selection and my immaturity and my inability to recognize and respond to red flags earlier when I should have, and apply this now to all women, because that's the very thing that I'm critiquing women about, which is taking their bad choices in men and now saying all men are dogs,
Mhm.
all men is blank. And it's like, we got to get better with this. And it's like, when I'm seeing women that have only negative things to say about men, that's 99% of the time because of what she's been propagandized and indoctrinated with on social media. And then what she sees with her friends and what she potentially has experienced with her previous choices. So if you're a man that's like just angry and angry all the time, that's usually an indication of maybe a little bit of too much of what you're watching or allowing to influence you, and also potentially your choices and decisions with the caliber of women that you, or what you've been willing to tolerate for as long as you did.
Mhm.
So, fellas, be mindful, like, this is definitely a channel of trying to push both sides to be open to looking at things from a slightly different lens. So let's segue. What do you think in terms of like the big talking point now with the mental health, and everybody feels like they're now a mental health expert with all the words they're using?
Mhm.
Emotional intelligence. I feel like this has kind of been co-opted and hijacked And
gosh.
now, based off of social media, it almost comes off like men are being told that they're not emotionally intelligent at all, and
Okay.
that women are the ones who kind of are excellent at emotional intelligence. Give me your honest feedback about that. Are men that bad, and are women that great?
My goodness. It's like they take all the good words and just mess it up. Just take it and do all kinds of stuff with it. Emotional intelligence, you have the ability to identify, manage, and understand your emotions
Mm-hmm.
and the emotions of someone else, because emotional intelligence also includes social intelligence and relational intelligence. So
Mm-hmm.
am I able to manage, understand, identify, manage, and understand what's going on with me, but can I also do it with someone else?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what emotional intelligence is. Daniel Goleman coined that
Yeah.
term
Yeah.
in about like 1990, in like late 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it came from. Um,
Who's better?
it's
Hold on. Who's better at it?
it's
Let's
a
start
winner,
there.
right?
Who
Okay,
in 2025?
I'm gonna give a bottom line answer. I think that, and then I'm gonna give nuance. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I think that men in general are better at emotional intelligence.
Oh, hold on. We gotta pause
No,
that.
don't clip
Did
it.
y'all
Don't
hear
clip
that?
that. Don't clip it.
Did y'all hear that,
Don't
fellas?
clip that.
Did y'all hear that? She literally said, "Well, we gonna clip this part." She literally, actually, let me let you finish. My bad for interrupting. Continue.
Okay, no, it's good. I think that because I think it's important. I think it's important that I can just say that. I think it's
Okay.
important that we can do that. I think that men in general are better at emotional intelligence, but it's also the important kind of just like the word marriage. When someone is claiming to be emotionally intelligent, what do you mean by that? Because being emotionally intelligent doesn't mean that you just like know emotion. It doesn't mean that you have emotions. It means that you intelligently deal with them. Okay, so you deal with them with a level of consciousness that allows you to have some control. So the word control is not bad. Everybody's like the
Mhm.
word control. Everybody wants to claim this word control. Control is, there's a healthy level of control.
Y'all move on from the word control.
Move on, please. It's just and maybe reflect why it's got. Anyway. Um, so have a healthy level of control over your emotions. It's good. I think that men. I'm not saying though that men start that way. My
Mm,
experience, personally and professionally, is that it's not that men start that way, it's that they're more easily able to be corrected, to be refined, and become that.
mm,
But I don't think I'm not just like coming across a bunch of emotionally intelligent men who are able to identify, manage, and understand their emotions and the emotions of their partner. No, what I
mm,
am coming across more is a man who is open to seeing, why isn't this working out for me? Like, why does this conflict keep happening? Oh, I have some emotional blindness. And
mhm,
that's a lot of men, y'all. So to be honest with you, I find a lot of emotionally like blind men, that where it's like where it's a lack of experience with emotions, where like it's almost like it's truly not that emotions are a new concept, but the
mhm,
experience of managing your emotions is a new concept. That's emotional intelligence, how to manage, understand, and identify your emotions. So I think that men are more open to like having their eyes open to like, oh, I'm missing this very big part of like, not just from like being a very big part of like my own experience. My emotions are a
mhm,
big part of all of our life experiences. Our emotions are a big part of our life experience. That dichotomy of like men aren't emotional, they're rational, is
mhm.
damaging to men, and we really have to push back on that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
men have emotions, women have emotions. Okay, it's not that just men are rational and not emotional. But anyway,
Mhm,
so I think that I find men are more willing to become emotionally intelligent, to do the work to learn emotional intelligence once they realize what it is that they're missing, and once they realize what the impact that is having on their relationship. Where I'm finding
mhm.
more women would claim that they're emotionally intelligent because people are telling them that they're emotionally intelligent, maybe because they have emotions, or they're emotional, which is not being emotionally intelligent,
Mm,
to talk about emotions, that's not being emotionally intelligent. So, and more women not only like kind of think that they're emotionally intelligent when they don't even really have an understanding themselves of what it is, but then
mm,
when they when it's revealed to them or just told to them that it's not that they don't have it, or they don't have as much of it as they think, and this is how we know it because it's going to be evidenced in your relationship. Like it's not like a guess of like, do you have it or not? We can just see it because we
Yeah.
can see how things are playing out. And I find that women are more defensive and closed to becoming emotionally intelligent because
Mhm.
anyway, I can talk about reason why, but that's what I think.
Not only do I agree with you, I'm going to add this piece. I think that in regards to emotional intelligence, you had said this part about women are they're aware of their emotions, they can express their emotions, but the way in which they choose to regulate or not regulate it, I think is a huge component of why I'm going to give my answer. I think that when it comes to male and female aggression, generally, most male aggression tends to come out obviously in anger and usually is physical in nature. For a lot of women, that's not the case. So it's substantially easier for us to see all the men that's not emotionally intelligent. We tend to be able to more easily identify those men. Highly problematic, oppositional, legal issues, getting arrested constantly, potentially doing jail time. Those are people that are fairly easy to identify on the male side when it comes to low emotional intelligence, right?
Mhm.
With female emotional expressions, especially when it comes to expression, they'll lean more into gossip, innuendo, character assassination, lying, deceit, a lot of the things that will allow them to kind of skirt away from a lot of legal consequences. And it's a lot harder to discern those people or those women who quote unquote are emotionally unintelligent. And I think you had alluded to some of the things that I kind of think of are a necessary component of somebody that clearly is emotionally intelligent for someone who isn't. Owning your mistakes, which includes apologizing. I
Yes.
can't tell you how many men say that getting an apology is like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
And that for many of them, they've never been apologized to by the woman that's in their life, whether it be a mother, a sister, a girlfriend, or even a wife. They'll say that they could have gone years and never received an apology, as if she's never done anything wrong, right? You also added up being open to feedback,
Mhm.
and it's like again, um, part of the issue I believe in terms of emotional intelligence with men that do very well successfully with women is trying to figure out a way to communicate with her to get her to be more open to feedback. There is a way to talk to somebody that's the truth that will make them closed off to wanting to hear anything you got to say ever again.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's another way to talk to people to actually get them to listen and
Mhm.
actually get them to reflect on what it is that you're saying.
Mhm.
And when, we as men, my view is the men that don't act like drill sergeants, but the men that also don't act like doormats are usually the men in the middle that can kind of figure this stuff out.
Mhm.
And then also when it comes to the ability, like you said, to not just be guided strictly by their emotions. Yeah, I think that the majority of men who struggle with controlling their emotions, they're the ones who take themselves out of here. They're the ones who get arrested. And most of the guys are not these emotional ticking time bombs. They I promise you, they between work and their relationships and doing life, they're not crashing out all the time. They're not keying cars. They're not burning clothes. They're not
Mhm.
stalking people at the jobs. Like overwhelming majority of men, I think, are fairly emotionally intelligent. I would even argue part of emotional intelligence is knowing when to not speak,
Mhm.
knowing when to be quiet, when to be reflective over what was just said and what was told or what they heard versus feeling like they have to have an answer then and there. I think with the things I just listed, my experience personally, professionally, anecdotally, like I think more men generally are actually a little bit more emotionally intelligent than many of their female or women counterparts.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that obviously there's not a whole host of women who I think are great at it. It's just to say that my experience has been like even some of the great, very mature women bring up a certain topic and all that go out the window. Say some type of feedback about something they don't want to hear about women in general or politics or Kamala Harris, and they you like they just like a lot of them just lose it, right? So that's something that I've experienced and seen enough to where I think, generally speaking, yeah, I kind of agree with you that generally a huge percentage of men are actually much more emotionally intelligent than perhaps they get credit for.
I
Um,
definitely more than they get credit for.
In terms of the red pill like manosphere space, where there's all these discussions about like marriage, right, and the value of marriage. Obviously, we don't have to get into all the details in terms of so many of the negatives per se, but like with everything that's going on with like the divorces, with everything that's going on with the alimony cases, the child support issues, the custody battles, and everything, is marriage in 2025 truly worth it in your eyes?
In mine, yes. In mine, yes. I also understand why people don't want to get married, for sure. I definitely understand why people. I would not get married
Mm-hmm.
if it didn't. If I had to deal with what people in general are dealing with, the majority is dealing with, men and women, I would
Mm-hmm.
not get married. Now,
Mm.
I think that there's a distinction we have to make between understanding the value. Does someone understand the value of? There's a difference between the value of marriage and seeing value in the people who you get to choose from to marry. And
Mm.
I think if someone doesn't have reverence for marriage, then people will absolutely make you not want to get married.
Okay.
So I think that's important. Like if you wanting marriage is not the same as wanting a person. Like a person is a part of them. You got to have another person to get married. But wanting marriage is a thing in and of itself. Okay, I wanted marriage before marriage. Okay, so
Mhm, mhm,
because it's marriage, and then it's a question of, is there someone who fits the role of husband? So there's two different questions we have to discern for ourselves. Like, what's
mhm,
the value of marriage? Do I understand marriage? And then the question of who's available to marry. So when you're just looking at who's available to marry, it's not looking good. I mean, there was a time where I was telling women, I was like, if you can think clearly, you need to start making some videos and putting it on Instagram so that
mhm.
men can see you, because it's so hard to find you.
Yeah.
That if I was a man looking out into the abyss at this point, it looks like an
Mhm.
abyss, I would be discouraged, right?
Yeah,
But so,
yeah.
but do you value or have a reverence for marriage? And we need to be able to separate the two, because if people make you not want to get married, you might not
Mhm,
have revelation of what marriage is.
mhm,
So I think that that's just an important distinction to make. Now, if it's is marriage worth it? It depends. I think when marriage is doing what it's supposed to do, yes. Like when marriage is doing what it's supposed to do,
mhm.
marriage is, I think, fully, totally worth it. Now,
Is
when it's
it
not, though,
yeah.
it's totally destructive. It's kind of like when we talk about with money. Like money is going to magnify whoever you are. Like it's whoever
Mhm,
you are, and then you get money, and then you're just gonna be more. You just have like more power and ability to be more of it, more of that. I think
yeah.
of marriage very similarly. It's like
Mhm,
whoever you are, the marriage is going to magnify it in a way that you weren't ready for. So if the people that are a part of the marriage or a part of the evaluation of should I get married, when that's not right, marriage,
mhm.
you don't have a separation between marriage and the people, you then disregard or devalue marriage.
I'm gonna be honest with you, and I, mind you, I'm married as are you and then many other people. You mentioned a key piece about like if it works, if it goes the way it's supposed to, and I think the gripe of why everybody's really bringing up this question is because more often than not, it's not
Yeah,
working. It's not going in the way in which marriage is supposed to function. Number two, on my end, I would acknowledge that for the modern man today, especially a man who has a lot to lose, I think it's a fair thing for him to reevaluate how it is that we're allowing the concept of marriage to be defined in the first place. Today, in 2025, as has been the case for years in modernized countries, we've attached what it means to be married and belonging and connected to one person to being connected to the state and the contract. And I think that there's going to be a huge movement that's going to adjust where societally we went from a lot of heavy marriages to like a lot of single mother and single father households now, a lot of divorces. I foresee a scenario where people go in the middle, where they start doing a lot more um, uh, social contracts
Mhm.
where they establish a contract in terms of expectations, what each side is willing to do, what each side is willing to give. They can renew it on an annual or however much basis. And
Mhm.
it's not so much just because people have a lower value or view of just marriage per se.
Mhm.
They are against all the risk that comes with being attached to the state, and they hate. Men will say it all the time. A lot of men are not scared of marriage; they're scared of divorce. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking rather than a huge segment of women just never being allowed to get access to a ring or getting access to walk down the aisle or getting access to kids or having a stable relationship and being able to have certain expectations because all these men are now avoiding marriage, i.e., because they're avoiding divorce. I can see a scenario where in the future, even people who still see the value in marriage may lean towards this new move where they try to develop like social contracts amongst two consenting adults. And you can kind of go down the list of all the things that normally would be applying in a marital situation, from adding people to each other's will to who's going
Mhm.
to pay for whose health insurance to signing off on certain things. Like, this is something where I think that may be the happy compromise where especially in our community, a lot of the women are struggling with the reality that they don't have any prospects and that may never be on the horizon. They're going to church every week and seeing the same two deacons there and the pastor and they work all the time and they're not getting approached, they're not getting proposed to as much anymore, if at all. A lot of women are not going to ever get married, and I could see a scenario where this may be, to me, less about like don't see value in women, don't see value in men, stay away from marriage, but like especially from the non-religious group, this may be the healthy compromise. What do you think about that?
So I think Sweden's already doing it. They're like they have
Mm,
the most single. They have a lot. I don't know. I think a ton of single parent households sounds very ignorant of me. I don't know what the number is, or if they
mhm,
have the most. They might have the most. I'm pretty sure
mhm,
it's Sweden, y'all, or it's like a Norwegian like country. But I was reading it. This was like 2 weeks ago. I was reading about how that's what many of their couples are doing. It's like it's creating a union outside of the state. And I understand it. Honestly, I mean, I when I Austin is someone to a man to marry, okay? Like
mhm,
if it wasn't clear as day, like
mhm,
clear as day, and I'm a woman and I know the courts are in my favor. I know that. And
yeah.
if a woman can't acknowledge that, that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't even. I'll be honest with you. If and this is, and I don't mean to cut you off, and I do want you to continue. Men, very easy cheat code when you're first approaching or dealing with women, and if they can't acknowledge any nuance of things that's often a benefit to women, that could be a negative or an expense to men. That's an early indication that she's probably not going to acknowledge her ever doing anything wrong in the relationship, because she's always going to look at it through the lens of that the man in the scenario is going to be the one that's guilty. Sorry,
mm.
you can continue.
That's good. That's good. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't clear as day, not because of the financial risk, but for me, it's the mental and emotional risk. And then it's also the fact of children. And and like at least to the extent that I know a two-parent household is necessary, it's very, very, very incredibly extraordinarily important, cannot be understated.
Yeah.
So I would not, and those are the reasons, part of the reasons as a woman that I would not get married unless
Mhm,
it was clear as day, not because it's money to lose, but mental and emotionally, that
mhm,
kind of problem, like
mhm,
to be married to the wrong man, like that, the impact mentally and emotionally would be extraordinary. Like, I mean, just off the charts for me. So I
Mhm.
would not get married if it wasn't just clear.
But
And I
I think
wouldn't.
that's the issue though, right? Like most people aren't going down the aisle because they don't think that it's clear. At that time in that season, they thought it was hell, me included. I thought it was clear. And then we end up being wrong or we find out things later or the person does change. Like that happens too. So I'm looking like this is
Mhm.
related to what you're talking about. How then in a modern era of like dealing with modern men, what do you think women need to do in order to find a good man? And then obviously the same question, what are the markers of like what does it mean to find a good woman today?
Uh, well, I think so much of what we've talked about today kind of it brings this first point up. It's like a good man or a good woman. Do you have an understanding of what the marriage is? Like,
Mm,
I think checking that understanding is really important, and that means that you have to understand it. You're just for yourself
mhm,
because if you can know, okay, maybe I should ask this question. But if you don't know how to discern the answer, the
yeah,
information that you get won't be meaningful to you. You need to know what it
okay,
is for you. So I think that under like someone's understanding of marriage, I think that's really, really important. I think um, you mentioned earlier about what we consume, like on the internet. You know, what do we need to do to find a good man or good woman? I need to check what you're consuming because if what
mhm,
you're hearing and what you're around is really negative, rejecting all of that.
mhm,
Um, you can say, consciously we'll say like, okay, well, that's just them, like that's them talking, like, but I know better or
mm,
that won't be me. And none of us get away from the impact of the subconscious, and everything that we're consuming has an impact. Everything we're consuming has an impact. So I think it's being really uh, stringent because
yeah,
if you to me this is if you're who you're going to marry is so incredibly
mhm,
important. The consequences of getting it wrong are really high.
huge, yeah,
Right. The benefits of getting it right are really high. So it's really important that you make the best decision possible, right? And sometimes you try to make the
mm,
best decision possible and then you realize later that there was even more information that you could have gotten. Okay, fine. But for to the best of your ability,
mhm,
right? Making the best decision possible and auditing what you're hearing like you want to be clear.
mhm,
You want to be able to see clearly and perceive clearly. And when you have extra voices, especially when it's inclined to the negative,
yeah,
uh, that's going to affect the way that you relate to the other. So I think you have to audit what you're consuming and you have
mhm,
to be clear on your own mental and emotional patterns, like your own unresolved issues. Because if you can't see, you can't select. Like, so if I
yeah,
can't see myself and if I can't see what are my own issues, what might get in the way of
mhm,
me forming a healthy relationship, even when I'm single, I'm able to reflect on that.
yeah,
So getting really clear on like what internal things you have going on that are affecting, impacting the way that you're connecting to people or who you're even attracted to.
mhm, mhm.
Uh,
So
mhm,
so what you were saying so key one and this applies to both sexes that I definitely agree with self-awareness and objectivity when it comes to their own flaws like you said.
mhm,
Does this person have the ability to acknowledge that they're doing something wrong? Apologize, take
mhm.
ownership of it and actively show you the signs of somebody that's trying to do something or trying to be better, trying
Yeah.
to improve on a thing. I think for men specifically, and actually both sexes, because I think both sexes, when we're attracted, when feelings are involved, when lust is involved, we ignore that red flag so much where it's like, this person will never apologize. They never take ownership for nothing. And you gave them a kid, you married them anyway. Like that's a very, very clear, that's something you're going to learn within 2 months because you're going to have disagreements. You're going to feel that when you ask them or they ask you about something that they're watching on social media or reading on a Reddit post, you're going to have disagreements. This is a great time to just start back and observe and see. how it is both sexes are going to like respond and reply to it. Number two, when they're watching the women's sphere, manosphere stuff, or they're watching all the reality TV or this trending influencer or celebrity stuff, how much say and influence do they have over that person in your relationship or interaction with them?
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge red flag for both sexes, believe it or not. Where I'm noticing and seeing, and I've said it to my wife, and I've even said it to. I said a lot of times, all we're watching is who it is you're kind of constantly promoting and quoting and stuff. And if you're listen, Cardi B can make some great music, but if you're treating her as this idol to kind of follow after, if you're Lori Harvey's a great example where it's like, yeah, go ahead, girl. Like if I see a whole lot of encouragement about really toxic stuff just because a woman's doing it,
Mm-hmm.
or if a woman celebrity is doing something really bad, toxic, or problematic, and you're kind of twisting yourself into knots to try to defend it just because for the sake of the sisterhood, if she's a woman, that already is letting me know how little grace you're going to show me and how much grace you're going to demand for yourself and other women. So for men, when you see the equipped, when you reverse it, when you flip it, when you see a man that seemingly is totally cool and okay with like women being disrespected, called out their names, trash, well, she got hurt or injured or physically abused. Well, what'd she do? Or like, what? Like that should be an early warning sign when their inability to be able to like recognize and point out problematic behaviors either within themselves or even within their own sex. You're going to experience this in the relationship soon after. So those are like a couple. Of course, there's so many more things that we could, the family they come from, the types of friends that they surround themselves with, but these are just individual things that I could think of that I don't know. I feel like if we responded more to those things, we would save ourselves like so much money and so much heartache on the other end.
I agree. Those are exactly. It's weird. You just like in my brain. Like I don't know how we got the same. How we think so similarly. We're not even. Did you grow up in? Are you in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Philly until third grade, moved to Jersey, and then went back to Philly when I became an adult.
Okay, nice, nice. I'm
Mhm.
I'm in Virginia, but yeah, it's wild. I mean, I literally I said that because I'm like, how did we get to be twins? Is there like something in the atmosphere? Like, is there something in the environment? Like, where did this come from?
Mhm.
Because I totally agree. Like that,
Mhm.
those are absolutely indicate. It's not nothing. It's
Yeah.
definitely something. It's
Yeah.
definitely something. I guess to add, I mean, I could only, I think, even just add a little bit to
Mhm.
that is like one of the reasons why, because I think it's important we understand why, like why these are red flags. Like what does that mean, right? Not just that it's Cardi, but also because
Mhm.
I would connect that to like to that seeking external validation, to
Mhm.
that looking for other voices for approval, and then it won't be yours in the house. Like it won't be yours.
Mhm.
So
Friends, social media, this some influencer who ain't even in a relationship. Like,
yeah, and it's not being able to discern where the advice is coming from. Advice and wisdom are different things.
mhm.
Not being able to discern like the source, uh, that's huge. So yeah, it definitely can come out in like that like celebrity type of like worship is a big word, but honestly, I mean, we're like trend. People can be trending in that direction
Yeah.
of really like putting these people on a pedestal and looking to them for like almost like guidance or indicators of how to live their own life or what's okay, what's acceptable because they're doing it. Um, and it so because they're doing it, it's okay, and it's not. So
Mhm.
yeah, I totally agree. Like the celebrity stuff is
Mhm.
big. The looking for external validation, whether that's in a celebrity,
Mm.
friends, even family, you gotta look at the source. Like where are people getting their where are people getting their wisdom? Because wherever someone's getting their advice, their wisdom, their knowledge, that impacts their compass and their intuition. Everyone's intuition isn't magnetized to the truth. Our intuition is like fueled by information that we get from our environments, that we get from sources, and it creates the feeling of intuition and gut. So with someone, so when we're taking in this information, so you're taking in, whatever information you're taking in becomes your north, that you're magnetized to. That's the direction you're going in. So it definitely matters. And I think that's the reasons why I brought up auditing first a couple of minutes ago, because it's so important and it's so passive. Like it's voices in the background or a podcast you're listening to in the car. So it doesn't feel like it's a big deal, but it really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's crazy with that, thinking about that, I got another one, and the ladies ain't going, fellas, and you can tell me if you disagree. When I start hearing stuff about stars and horoscopes, I'm already, listen, women's intuition. I just feel like there's just too many divorced, broken, isolated, lonely, anxious women and single mothers to still be holding on to this women's intuition belief system. I'm of the opinion that the women who just attribute what it is that they're going through, what it is that they're experiencing off of their own decisions, not the universe, not when they were born, somebody's star sign, just I got in the situation that I'm in because of what I've done and I take ownership of it. A really, really great sign to know where this person is on the spectrum of accountability of taking it all or taking little or none is, how do they talk about their exes? How do they talk about somebody from the past who they're no longer with and no longer responsible to do life with? Does that person from the past still get an emotional reaction out of them today when they're trying to do life with you? I'm like, to me, that's such a, and I didn't, when they're trashing their exes, like, that got nothing to do with me. That's from the past. I'm gonna be the one treated different. Like if she describing every man as a narcissist,
you're next.
If he describing every one of his exes as crazy, that that I don't know. What do you think about this? Am I like way off with this?
No, definitely. And I can go on and on about red flags, but definitely. I think it's very dangerous to think of yourself as an exception to someone's pattern. So, people can change. I have changed.
Same.
Right? Like, people absolutely can change. The important thing, though, that you said from the beginning of this is it's the accountability piece. Do you even recognize there's something to change? And then are you taking responsibility to change the thing? So people, I mean, no one's coming. We got to understand, like, nobody is coming fully, like, stacked with every, they're taking responsibility. They're apologizing every time they need to. They've got the right tone. He's never using the word control. Like, all of these different things. Like, no one's coming fully, like, everything that you want, and they never trigger you and all of that. No one's coming like that, right? Everybody, we are all going to you have to manage some issues, but it's the posture that someone takes, okay, when confronted with the issue, that makes all the difference. Because someone who has the wrong posture, which is a defensive, deflecting, minimizing, and men and women do it, y'all. This is a character issue, not a gender issue, regardless of what we see in the percentages. It is a character problem. And so if that person cannot take accountability, you're screwed. I mean, that's down the bottom line. I'm just going to wrap it there.
What's very, very clear based on some of the comments, folks, clearly want us to do this again, and they want it to be a live call-in show so they can really tell us about not about needing to use the word control. Um, it's already almost an hour and 40 minutes, and I don't want to hold you super long tonight. So what I want to do is two things. I am going to get through the super chat. So y'all, if you have not donated, feel free to donate if you can to the channel. As you see, a lot of people are donating. So I'm just going to read off some of these super chats. Thank you, Leon, for the $5. I think I read your comment before. CJ as well. Yosef, thank you for the $2. Unc, we've been going back and forth, but listen, but you're a supporter, and I rock with you, and I appreciate your effort for continuing to show support and engaging with us. I'll see Unc gonna pay. He gonna pay for these words. He said you gonna read my stuff. Chukwu, sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Oh, I didn't know that this was the national early national podcast day. I didn't even know that was a thing. I feel like they make up new holidays every year, but that's neither here nor there. Thank you, Unc, again. Responsibility without power is akin to slavery. I agree with that. Will Sands, thank you for the $10. And then last but not least, Theon, again, thank you for another $5. So, thank y'all for supporting, for showing up. This was super dope. So I do have a final closing question. What's an underrated rule, saying, or lesson that you've learned that's kind of stuck with you?
For me, it would be essentially like the lesson of being okay with being in the minority. And I think the scripture that that is attached to that is Matthew 7:13 and 14.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Enter through the narrow gate, right? For broad or wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. But small is the gate, and narrow is the road that leads to life. Okay, and only a few find it.
Wow.
And I think that is so important and impactful. It's really potent for me. I think it because it's being aside from, I mean, that's Bible, right? But the implication for your life, I think, is really powerful to understand that it is very easy to be in the majority, and it looks like the right way when everybody or most people or whatever, or most people or most of the community is doing this thing. But small is the gate and narrow is the road that leads to life. And so it's the minority, and it always has been. That's nothing new. It's always that, right? Where it's the minority of people, and it's a narrow road, meaning like it's difficult and it's challenging, and it takes consciousness and intention to do it. But that's the way that leads to life. And so what things look like aren't often what they seem. And so we have to stay convicted in what we know is right, and what we really believe, what we know is right, and keep our values in order. Even when it feels like it's only us. Let it be that. That's okay. It's okay.
I'm gonna tell you that last thing that you just said, out of all those dope things that you said tonight, that has been my entire 2025. And I almost want to break down and cry hearing somebody who's very successful at what they're doing with this stuff just say it's okay to be in the minority. Between family, friends, church, you name it. It's like when you are somebody who just is not part of the go along, get along crowd, and you try to think for yourself, the moment you say something that doesn't align with whatever the designated a group of authority is, it's like the isolation, the abandonment, the attacks. You're holding women accountable as a Black woman on this stuff. So I can only imagine what some of the things you've been sent or told about yourself or whatever. And it's like, it's okay to be a part of the minority, and it's okay to not have to try to fit in. we all know that, but I realize we all don't try to live that.
Mhm.
And wow, I appreciate you saying that. I didn't realize I needed to hear that.
Mhm.
Um, I guess because it's like I'm so used to just at this point, it's like just stubbornly just just do what I think is right. It's like not only should I do it, I should be okay with doing it because it's me. It's not me trying to be something that I'm not or trying to fit in and live a life of uh, lying silence.
Mhm.
So wow, thank you for that. So one, thank you for joining. Thank you for coming on. This was honestly, I enjoyed this. We didn't even cover everything that I wanted to cover, so I know this won't be the last time for sure. Why don't you tell people where they can find you, how they can support you, and then we'll close out.
Thank you, Jeff. This has been great. I really
Oh
could
yeah,
just
well, yeah. Overall, and listen, I always try to ask my guests for feedback, how I did, if I overtalked, if I asked too many questions. Like, let me know your thoughts. Like, what you think?
no, I think this has been really, you know, refreshing can be maybe an overused word. I mean it. I really mean it, like really,
Mm,
truly, literally. Like this is really refreshing, um,
mm,
really constructive,
mm,
very balanced. Um, I appreciate the way it feels like you just get the feeling we're just getting somewhere. You know, I get the feeling that we're getting somewhere. And
mm,
it takes we have to we have to do this stuff together, you know, like we really, and so I appreciate that about you, that you're doing this with others. And you know,
mm.
so many people want to be the main character, be like, you got everybody want to be Moses, everybody want to lead somebody to the promised land, leading people to damn hell. But like we can only do this together. Like we and it because it is so few of us, it really is. I mean, being able to be in this space with you and to have your audience be as engaged as they are. And I know so many more people will get a lot from this. I appreciate the contribution that you have allowed us to make and facilitated for us
Mm,
tonight. So I really appreciate this. I'm excited to keep
mm,
going, to keep doing more. So and I appreciate all of y'all in the chat. Thanks for welcoming me. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube. TikTok is a whole different animal. I'm there. It's like a backup page. But on all things, I am Taylor Chandler on all things. It's also my email if you want to reach me there. It's taylor@iamtaylorchandler.com. My website, same thing, iamtaylorchandler.com. So super easy to find me. Thanks for dropping that in the chat. My YouTube channel, I'm working on growing that. So I really appreciate
mm,
if y'all go over there and subscribe. What you can expect from me, I'm really focused on getting very practical and giving people tools for self-development and relational development. So you'll find like my most recent episode, there's a free downloadable guide that has some models for helping you to evaluate yourself and your relationships. I'm going to keep adding to
mm,
that. It's a living document, so you can find that there. So you're going to find a lot of tools there. And this is really my page, my work is for the minority. It really, really is. It's for
mhm,
those of us that can admit, like, I want a better self and I want better relationships too. Like
mm,
I'm okay with owning that and I'm not trying to convince people that marriage is a good thing. It's like, hey, but here that's what we do. And
mm,
this is for people who want, because when you get in spaces where people who take this stuff seriously, it's a very different experience. And
yeah.
so this is for my work is for those people. It's for the minority. It's for serious people in the sense of like, you know, you really value learning and growth and development, the same as I think
Mhm,
your audience does. So that's
mhm.
what my work is for. Yeah, and so go subscribe on YouTube and find me on Instagram.
Y'all, so please support her pages. She mentioned TikTok, which she barely's on.
Okay.
Instagram for sure. She has a huge following. YouTube, y'all, subscribe, follow, like her video content. Definitely support this person. I'm vouching for her when I say like the support y'all have given me. All I ask every time I bring on guests, I'm specifically picking people who I think have interests and perspectives. They have thought provoking views, and that they're genuinely people who I think have something to bring to this conversation. So definitely support, definitely follow. Um, Thanks again, Taylor, for just joining me tonight. Thanks everybody that joined in the super chats and everything. Y'all are killing it. I don't even know how many people donated, but y'all are doing your thing. So thank y'all so much for the love, the support. Best believe we're going to work together some more for sure. And real quick, Taylor, you haven't written a book, have you?
No.
Nor
Not
have
yet.
I, and nor have I. And I'm assuming people have been telling you need to, right?
Right.
I've been hearing that as well. This conversation with you has actually motivated me to realize I really need this
Mm.
last quarter to start to focus on starting to put some of that stuff together, because I'm realizing now, like, it's one thing to do the videos and just think of things in the moment. It's another thing to kind of put this all down on paper and actually have something to share with the audience, and with people that they can kind of take with them. And I'm realizing now your feedback. Listen, you're gonna be an editor whether you like it or not. When I get done writing this
Be
thing,
happy to.
yeah, but when I get done this early first draft, I'm gonna make sure to kick it to you and Crimson Cure and a couple other folks whose opinions and views I really respect. And and feel free if you start deciding to work on yours. We may have to hold each other accountable.
Yeah,
Um,
no, we definitely have to stay really connected in this space.
mhm.
I've got several questions for you.
Oh, hey, heck yeah, heck yeah. Oh, and listen, and I had to share this because Dr. L, he's a big, dope, supporter, really good guy. He's made it very clear he wants you on his show ASAP. So
Okay.
he gonna find you. So
Okay, Dr.
uh,
L, send me an email. People say DMs. I can't get through the DMs. So just send me an email, taylor@imtaylorchandler.com.
yep. All right, y'all. So enjoy y'all evenings if you can, besides the donations, which we love. Make sure you like this video if you haven't, and make sure that you send it to 3 people: a friend, a family member, and your partner. Thank y'all again, and I hope y'all have a good rest of your evening. And I'll see y'all at the next video/interview. Take care.